addresses, I guess, associated with our YouTube account. I don't know why, and I just have to make sure to pick the right one. So,
Okay.
file an error. I guess we should change it or get rid of some of them. And it looks like we are broadcasting, so I can, there we go. All right, we are broadcasting. Good.
Okay. For another exciting episode.
Yeah. we had 3 views on the last meeting. Let me go to share my screen. I can bring up our governance meeting first. That is the first one of the 2 we're going to do today. So give me a moment and I will call up our governance committee materials. As we get started, I do just want to reiterate the New York State Legislature has executed legislation that enables us to use virtual access for our meetings. We also stream meetings on YouTube, and our meeting minutes and materials will be posted on our website. All the public materials for notice were distributed last week, a week before our meeting. So we should be good to go as far as meeting the open meetings law. I don't see any members of the public who have joined us. So if it happens, that would be great. If not, we'll just proceed. I do want to open up the agenda for the governance committee meeting. The last time we met was back in October of 2020. Governance is really responsible for 2 core areas. One is the internal operations of the corporation. Looking for board members is a traditional activity of governance, although most of you are ex officios. The other elements are doing annual self-evaluations, which get submitted aggregate to the New York State Authority Budget Office. And then, if necessary, making suggestions for modifications of corporate governance principles, policies, or practices, which we have done in the past as far as developing harassment, sexual harassment, and financial oversight policies. The governance committee made the recommendation to the board and did some of the reconnaissance work on some of those updates in the past. Our governance committee members are Bill Simcoe, Gary Nason, Chris Wheeland, and Mark Hendricks. So it looks like we have a full house. The minutes were distributed prior to the meeting on Dropbox. Do we have any questions about the minutes or any wishes of the committee members?
Not me.
No. I know.
Jerry Mazinski was here for that.
Yeah.
Pretty short, succinct meeting. Do we have any wishes of the committee members?
I make a motion. We accept the meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Wonderful. This is our what we call our confidential evaluation of board performance. It was developed off of a model that the Authority Budget Office developed for boards to internally review their procedures and board performance. We have used this several years in a row. And it is a agree, somewhat disagree, and disagree form. It's very simple. It'll be distributed to the board members once the committee, if and once the committee makes a recommendation for the board to adopt this practice. So that's what the committee is being tasked with. In the past, the aggregate results have yielded numbers that look similar to this. And we have used those to either do additional outreach and education to our board members or strengthen our internal controls policies. So pretty straightforward. It is something that gets submitted to the Authority Budget Office with our annual report that is due to them December 31st. And it is a mechanism for us to perform kind of a self-help assessment on how our board is performing. So with this tool, all the data is aggregated. I'm obviously privy to who's submitting the information, but what the board sees at the end of the day is the aggregate results. So what we'd be looking for is a recommendation to the board to either use this tool, or governance can certainly make some modifications to this particular tool if they do see fit. and it's up to the committee's discretion on mechanism to do annual evaluation. Otherwise, they can just make a recommendation to the board to use the tool, and that would be it.
I'd make a motion to continue using this tool.
All right. Thank you,
Yeah,
Bill.
I think it's worked just fine, so
All right.
no reason
Thanks,
to
Mark.
change.
All in favor then?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, great. We will, the committee will recommend to the board that we take up this tool. The only other element of this, and I'm going to go to the website, is I'll say it's a charge. We do on our website keep a record of all of our policies. Hopefully people are able to see the website. My screen sharing is paused. Let's resume share. Here we go. Sorry for that. Can people see? It doesn't. My my screen for the website?
No.
Okay, maybe I will stop and restart. There. Doesn't like when I alternate between different programs.
There we go.
We'll see the website?
Yep.
Excellent.
Yep. Beautiful.
Yep. So pretty straightforward. All of the policy documents that are in effect for the corporation are listed on the website. We do have a requirement in our bylaws to annually review the policies. If there are changes that may be necessary to the policies, it is the governance kind of first volley to make those recommendations. So not an official action, just note that should any governance committee meeting members wish to see any modifications of these policies, they should bring it to the attention of the committee, and we can inform the Authority Budget Office that we are looking at making modifications to these policies, or we can check the box that we have looked through the policies and otherwise perhaps determined that no changes are necessary at this time. So no action necessary, but a charge to committee members to familiarize themselves with the policies and ensure that if they do feel that there are changes necessary, to inform the committee so any work to update them can be made. Any questions, comments, concerns?
Not from me.
Okay. I'm going to stop share for a moment and I'm going to go back to the agenda. All right, I'm getting good at this. Here we go. Oh, I said that and then it disappeared. Share. I'm going to add like television show host to my resume after this. So is there any other business for the committee? If not, do we have a motion to adjourn the governance committee meeting?
Yeah, I'll make the motion. This is Gary.
I'll second.
Great, thank you. Committee members, any opposed?
Aye.
Wonderful. That will conclude our governance committee meeting. It is after 10 a.m., which is the time we publicly noticed our corporation meeting. So I am going to make sure that I have that open for folks. Give me just a moment and I will share the proper screen. And from then on, Bill, the floor is yours. Let's make sure that I have minutes open. I want the... Just a moment. I want to make sure I open the agenda.
Well, Martin, you want to give that preface about the open meetings law thing?
Absolutely. Yes. The New York State Legislature extended emergency measure for open meetings law, allowing public authorities to hold meetings virtually, which is what we're doing here on Zoom, provided they provide the public an opportunity to participate. There are 2 links on the meeting agenda and on the public notice, which was distributed. Those links either allow the public to watch the meeting, which is being live streamed on CDRPC's YouTube channel, or they can join the meeting via Zoom to participate. We don't have a mechanism for public comment. It's not a hearing, but the public is invited to participate in these meetings. It doesn't seem that we have any members of the public attending for this particular meeting. But we have met the requirements for the public notice for virtual meetings in accordance with the legislature's directive for how to host virtual meetings.
Okay, so in regard to our roll call, I'm here from Albany, Tom Dufresne. I think Gary and Joe were here from Cohoes. Mark from Rensselaer. Chris is here from Troy. Is Andrew on too, or Andrew's here?
Oh, yeah.
Watervliet, do we have Watervliet today?
We do not have anybody participating today, unfortunately.
Don't have Watervliet today. Green Island, we have Maggie and Gary are both here. And Tim Murphy's here from the Albany County Water Purification District, as well as we have Tom White and Mark Castiglione. So I think that's everybody.
Yep, with the exception of Watervliet and the Rensselaer County Sewer District, who are traditionally unable to make these meetings, we do have a full house.
And Martin Daly, who's in.
Yes, that's me. Here I am.
So has everyone had a chance to review the minutes, and do we have any comments in regard to September 9th minutes?
I think I saw anything.
If we have no,
Minutes were distributed prior to the meeting on the Dropbox site. They are also available on CDR on the CSO website as well for review.
Make a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Financial report, Tom?
Might be muted, Tom, so.
Yes, I was muted and I wasn't paying attention to my muting. Again, not much activity. We had some things occur. The accounts payable standpoint of 5,000 is the insurance bill that was not paid as of the end of the month last month, but that's been taken care of, I believe. And Martin, I need to have you call me when we're done with this meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, we did pay. We did pay our insurance bill for the public officers policy that was online, and then there was a auto check online, and then for the general liability insurance that was paid yesterday via a real physical check. So.
Okay. And so, but pretty much everything is copacetic. We're sitting with $322,000 in cash. The community's balance is a net 316, and that report is included on page 2 of what makes up that balance, as is usual. And that's pretty much it. And I'm not sure. I haven't seen the data. Didn't go through today's meeting information yet, but I'm hoping we get any of the work that's been done through the end of September 2021 gets reported in so that we can update our books before the audit starts, and that will be in the next few weeks. So if you haven't sent it in already, please send in new stuff and we'll try to work on it.
We do have a significant volume of invoices to review and book for this particular
For
meeting.
this month.
We're gonna get your wish.
All from Bill. All from Bill.
All from Bill personally.
Okay. Got that garage fixed, Bill, huh?
At the new pool at Lincoln Park.
Oh, well, it is
Yeah.
cool. It is the Albany pool communities, you know.
Yeah.
So, all right. Any questions on the
Okay.
finances for the report that's been given out with the minutes? Well, with that, thank you very much, gentlemen, and we'll
Mhm.
see you next month, if not before.
Thank you, Tom. Do we have the report about the governance committee meeting that just occurred?
We do. I don't have any paperwork associated, but the governance committee previously recommended to the corporation I can actually call it up, to adopt the self-audit mechanism that has previously been employed. And that mechanism I will put up on the screen just so if we do have folks watching on YouTube that are joining us just for this meeting and haven't attended the prior one, we have an annual confidential evaluation of board performance. The committee met immediately prior to this meeting and recommended to the board that the board officially adopt this mechanism for the 2021 calendar year as the mechanism we use to audit internal controls and submit to the Authority Budget Office at the end of the year. So we would just need a motion by a board member to accept the recommendation of the governance committee.
Do I have a motion to accept the recommendation that we continue to use the form used previously for our evaluation?
I'll second it. This is Gary.
Who was the first?
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
Thank you, Maggie.
Thank you.
Write it down.
Okay.
Very
I have to type the minutes too, so thank you for clarity.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is vendor invoices.
Oh yeah, we've got quite a few.
Yeah, don't press the print button if you got this.
There are 221 pages of the vendor invoices. These have also been uploaded to the Dropbox for review. I will note, and I'm sure Bill will add some color to this, I will note we do have one application from City of Cohoes that is for Arcadis for design work for Columbia Street. That was submitted to DEC some time ago. So that may be the start of the closing period for these applications as they go towards design, and we might see some more from a construction management perspective, but the Arcadis invoices provided. We did receive a number of pay applications from the City of Albany for various phases for the Beaver Creek Clean River Facility. I hope I'm pronouncing the company's name right. I apologize if I'm not. DeGaseri, it's probably butchered that. Two separate types of phases. They bill for HVAC and plumbing separately, so two of their invoices are provided. Keller has three invoices or to you, and Malloy has two invoices, and then finally Reifenberg has one invoice. These are being covered from the City of Albany's W2IP grant, which is 75%, and then 25% is being applied to the city's IMG grant program. And so while we are approving the invoices to book for the corporation, the community's obligation is zero for these particular invoices because we're booking them to those grants. Communities still need to approve the invoices, and we still need to make sure we're tracking the expenses for this particular project as we do with all of them. So I know folks are very happy about the zero for the community obligation. That will probably next month start seeing actual community obligations for these invoices. So I don't mean to temper your excitement, but the total obligation for these invoices for the communities is $15,000 for the City of Cohoes' particular invoice. But the amount of expenditures that we're booking for the pool communities without netting the grants is just over $7.4 million. Bill, if you want to add any color or commentary or corrections, if I misspoke on anything, glad you're here.
Yeah, it's the Jesser.
Just the Jesser. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll provide an update when we get to project updates in regard to where we are with Beaver Creek.
Do you have any questions from the board members about the invoice before we take a motion to accept and process?
We did recently get waiver requests approved for Reifenberg and Keller's project, so everything's dispersible in regard to these things with EFC. So it's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Do I have a motion to pay the invoices?
I will make that motion for
Thanks, Mark.
zero.
Second,
I'll second.
thank you, Chris. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Great. Let's go back up to the agenda.
EFC disbursements.
Thanks, everybody.
EFC disbursements and reconciliations is that.
Yeah, fun topic. I will mention that Paul Johnson at EFC distributed a draft cost exhibit to me and Chris for their next stage of financing. I'm going through it, making sure all the numbers match based on the kind of, I'll call it a powwow that Paul and Chris and I had, going over future obligations and updating some of the contracts for projects that have already gotten underway. So we believe we'll be ready to go for that cost obligation for it to go to the next phase of that particular financing. Other than that, everything seems to be, I'll say on schedule, though on schedule means slightly behind schedule, but it is what it is. We're working through the process with each of the communities. That's kind of then the biggest hurdle for us, is making sure that we are making costs eligible and that we are producing a cost exhibit which is accurate, to be able for Troy to take the next steps and get to a closing with EFC.
That's on the 01 financing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the combination financing, including the remainder of costs for the long-term control plan.
And I think we've got every community ready now to go to the closing on the amendment to the Beaver Creek financing.
We do. Paul, I forwarded this along, but Paul is anticipating they will be on either the November or December agendas for EFC's loan committee. So in either case, have those completely done by the end of this year.
That's a good thing.
Yes. They're backed up, but we're getting there.
Okay, we set with that agenda item.
I don't have anything additional to add unless anybody else wants to.
How about, can I share my screen?
Absolutely. And let me make you host. Good to go.
Some pictures.
Wow, look at this. How shotcrete is that?
So that's the Beaver Creek trunk sewer, and those are guys drilling the tunnel from the what's going to be the diversion structure from Delaware Avenue down to the satellite treatment facility.
I like the Arnold Palmer umbrella down there.
Let's see.
That was a change order.
Here's a building the walls. You can see they're working on slabs and walls now inside the main satellite treatment area. And this doesn't look like much, but that's the end of the tunneling by Warden Burke. They have completed all the tunneling going over to 3rd Avenue. And there's still some work by Reifenberg to be done to connect this over to the existing 30-inch sewer on 3rd Avenue. But Warden Burke, the tunneling contract, is going to be demobilizing. So, so we're going quite a bit. So now it's just getting all the iron workers to do all this concrete, which is a vast amount of concrete at the satellite treatment facility. And the tunneling operation from Delaware Avenue down to there is going to take quite a while. I think they figure they'll do about 15 feet a day with that type of operation. It's slower than the micro tunneling thing that Warden Burke was doing. So phase 1 is pretty much all done. That was this connection at 3rd Avenue. Phase 2, I think screens are going to be manufactured and ready by November, but the control panel for the new screens is going to be on the critical path, waiting for the control panel before we can start putting in any screens. Phase 2. So it's still waiting for the joint venture team to finish up on that add-on actuated gate at the South Plant. Tim's on the call here. I guess we've got to add an alternate on it to replace a couple of gates. The county purification district wanted to see if they could include some work while we have some pump bypassing going on at the South Plant. So that's in the package. I guess once I have that package, I'll make sure that Tim and the Angelo and folks have a chance to see it, and we'll get it to EFC and DEC for their review too. So that's my progress report. I'll let you share your screen again.
All right. I don't have anything further to share on my screen, no documents, whatever. So unfortunately,
We just have, I guess the only other thing to mention is we have our quarterly meeting this afternoon.
We do have our quarterly meeting. Actually, I'll go to the agenda. We do have our quarterly meeting at New York State DEC. Why is everything telling me, giving me messages here?
I need to do something for you.
There we go. Share. Okay. So we do have a quarterly meeting scheduled today with DEC that will be virtual on Zoom. If you didn't get the invite and would like to attend, let me know. And we can certainly make sure that you have the link to be able to attend that meeting. On that agenda, I had temporarily waiver for the tunneling project, which has happily been satisfied. It is another opportunity for us to discuss some of the, I'll say, frustrations with the coordinator review process that doesn't seem to be taking place. We don't often get comments from DEC on these projects, and we are on a rather tight timeline. So I do want the opportunity to kind of ask what's happening at EFC for these reviews. Because these projects are on the timeline for the order on consent. So we're not asking any favors to be done. We're asking for the process to be moved through so we can make sure to meet our deadlines. We know we have projects that have been bid out and we need to make awards to get them moving on. So those are the agenda items. Speaking about DEC in reference to they are aware of the community's ongoing work to update their operations, maintenance, and inspection plans. As many modifications were made to regulating structures last year, dams and weirs removed or the shelf systems modified, the obligations for the district's inspections have changed. And so while the ownership of these facilities does stay the same, those operation, maintenance, and inspection plans for the communities on the west shore of the Hudson need to be modified. Albany already sent in their operations, maintenance, and inspection plan updates to DEC. I don't know if you've gotten any comments on those, but the remaining three communities, Cohoes, Watervliet, and Green Island, will need to open those plans and make sure that per each regulator that was modified, they are accounting for and communicating to DEC that the plan has been modified to reflect those on the ground changes. I know Bonnie Starr has been in touch with each of you individually. It was our contention that these modifications are post the submission of a joint document to DEC as an obligation of the order. And we remind DEC, for lack of a better word, that this is no longer an item that is enforceable under the order, but it is an individual community obligation to submit to DEC these annual operations, maintenance, inspection plans if there are modifications. But I do want to make sure that if the communities need any assistance with these documents or there are conversations with DEC about that modification process, that we are available to help, and that 1:30 call could be used as kind of a springboard to ask any questions to DEC. But they are looking at getting those modifications in soon So that way they can make sure that they're checking the box on the timeliness of the modifications to those documents.
In regard to Cohoes' Columbia Street project, Gary, do you want to tell us where that stands?
Yeah, we had a low bid of Carver at 3.8 million. So we're in the process. It got approved by our Common Council. So it got awarded to Carver, and we're in the process of he's getting bonds and insurances and everything else together, submitting them to Arcadis, who will then submit them to us for signature, and hopefully away we go. We're still waiting on comments from EFC and DEC. Even though we submitted, the drawings were available for review back on June 17th, and we haven't gotten anything yet. So if it's something, small or whatever, so we'll just have to add it by change order, and Carver's aware of that. But that's where we stand. Supposedly EFC was supposed to get the comments out on the plans and specs this week, but I haven't seen anything yet. So, but regardless, we're moving ahead with Carver. The bid is good. We want to lock in his low bid price, and also tell him he's got a contract so he could contact his suppliers and start entering into agreements with the suppliers before there's any more price increases. So on that, we're plowing ahead. On Valete Street, we submitted the drawings to DEC on September 30th. We uploaded them to the site, and we did get acknowledgement from their GIGP group that they were aware that the documents had been uploaded and they were going to start review, which is encouraging. I was half expecting the same thing would happen as Columbia Street, but it would appear that because it's GIGP heavy on Valete Street, that their GIGP group is the one that's going to be taking a look at it. And they've got apparently more time to look at it than the other group. So we're keeping our fingers crossed and see what happens. So that's where we are there.
Okay, so Valete Street will go out to bid when, do you think?
We're kind of shooting at it. It would go out to bid probably in January. Our goal is to bid it and then get the contractor on board for the springtime. So we're figuring that someplace early January maybe going out to bid.
Did that have
That's the
an
game plan
did that
currently.
have an April 1st notice to proceed date?
April
Yeah.
1, 2022.
Yep. That project's ahead of schedule.
Okay. And in
Fairly.
regard to
Yeah. Sure.
in regard to Troy's projects,
Polk Street design got submitted to DEC. Chris, do you want to communicate? Haven't heard anything yet from DEC about the design documents?
So they were submitted on, let's see, September 30th. On October 1st, we got an email from Danny at EFC that it does not conform to the EFC engineering report guidelines, and it needs to be revised. So Greg Bold called over and said the engineering report is actually the LTCP, and that this is a supplemental to that engineering report and does not have to meet every single checkbox on the full guidance of the EFC. They wanted an alternatives analysis. They wanted all sorts of other initial documentation that you would do if you had a single project going forward, where this is kind of covered somewhere else. So there's discussion on that right now. But yes, it was.
We had
It's crazy to me they're circling back on that after we've had 6 years of projects move through. The alternatives analysis is in the long-term control plan. The plan is the baseline engineering document.
That's kind of what the discussion is of, we can't do an alternative because it's a consent order project.
Right.
So
this is Gary. We had the same problem with Columbia Street. We, believe it or not, we went around 2 sets of comments with EFC on an engineering report that they had said was acceptable in 2017. They had issued comments on it in 2017 or 2019. And we had answered those comments. And I even had an email indicating that the engineering report was acceptable. But when we went and we did the plans and specs and everything else, they went back to the engineering report and said, you know what, we never officially approved this. And we went through another 2 rounds of comments before they said that they were going to approve the engineering report. And meanwhile, we're looking at approval for the plans and specs, and we're still waiting on. So God bless you, Chris.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. And the frustration comes in of, who's the regulatory authority, DEC or EFC?
Exactly.
You know, the water side of it's easy. Health department takes the lead. EFC just gives you the check. The sewer side is much different.
Because of those 10 state standards.
Does Polk Street also have a April 1st notice to proceed?
Yeah.
So we're going to push forward and move on. I mean, the project's design is going to be what it is. It's just a matter of trying to conform the language to meet. I don't anticipate DEC having a problem with it. It's EFC.
Right.
So we'll just have to see how it shakes out. But yeah, we're still going to have to move forward with, what we have to do.
Yeah.
Gary, you saw EFC's email about that particular project saying that they were, I'm going to put it in their words, doing you a favor by reviewing the project now when there wasn't a completed finance application. What are they talking about with a finance application? They've known all the pool communities, 4 of the pool communities are financing projects with EFC, and 2 of them, in addition to Cohoes, are financing the costs of that particular project. So why would they communicate if they thought they didn't need to review the project yet because there wasn't a financing application for it?
Well, I think what happens is you got people now that are looking at it that were not around when the consent order was signed and the agreement was made with EFC and DEC that the pool projects or whatever were going to be treated different than anybody else, and everybody was going to work together so that DEC had 60 days to review, get comments, and if EFC was going to be providing financing, they would also be reviewing at the same time. And that had been the agreement for years. Unfortunately, those people from the regulatory side, a lot of them are gone. And EFC, this is a new group of characters. When I was explaining this to them, that EFC agreed with DEC to review these things within 60 days, I was met by silence on the other side.
Yeah, it's on us. That 60-day
So-
clock is ours. They don't have one in the order. We get 60 days from DEC comments to respond to them, to make plans approval. They don't, and I doesn't surprise me. They don't put their own clock on themselves. That may have been a communication or a handshake agreement to make sure that things stay on track, but they never put any requirements on themselves. I think what surprised me was the fact that they said there was, they were doing this, expediting this review because there wasn't a finance application, but this project is contained within the City of Troy and City of Albany's finance applications that were executed years ago. So that was my confusion as to why EFC would say that this one was getting special treatment.
Are there any other projects, or was that the ones that are coming up?
Well, that's the one that came up. My fear is that, and thankfully we only have a few more projects left, but Cohoes has a few more projects, including Little C. And there's another sewer separation project, and Troy has a couple more sewer separation projects coming up too. And I want to just make sure that we have an understanding with EFC that the review of those isn't tied to the specific financing within a community for those projects. That financing has already been taken care of. That review should be a matter of the procedure from the fact that these need to be submitted on a particular date or beforehand, specific to the order on consent. And that it was never anticipated that we would have to put the brakes on projects in order to meet these financing requirements. So, I know DEC in the past has said, hey, a consent order, a force majeure event is not, the bank doesn't loan you money. But when the bank is the one doing the project review and ultimately determining the bounds of the project, then we can't move forward with the project if we're waiting for rounds and rounds of comments to come in that could affect the scope of the project, which has happened. So that's the thing I'm trying to nicely communicate to DEC, is that was never anticipated to be this hurdle that you guys have had to deal with.
Yeah, well, you can't have it both ways. You can't be holding things up and asking to dot every T and dot every I and cross every T, and then still meet consent order dates and keep things on schedule.
Yeah. So I'd like somebody at the wheel to I don't know, to not let the vehicle drift into oncoming traffic at DEC. That may be too many metaphors, but it's odd for me to say this. I would like the regulator to do more regulating. And the bank to do more banking.
At least only have one regulator.
I know.
Well, there's also the idea that we're going to have to be thinking about another tranche soon, because my financing stuff went through the 2022 timeframe.
Mm-hmm.
There's still the remaining projects that we'll have to be looking for another round of financing.
Yeah,
So,
Chris, you rolled yours into one more, and that was it.
Yeah, it might be one we have to look at the third tranche and see what the dollar value actually is, and is it worth it? Last 3 years was minimal. I mean, Big C was the big one. After that, it drops off the cliff. It might be, is it worth what's out there for grants, and is it worth the grant money compared to what we're working with and what the cost would be?
Well, and what's the federal government doing with stimulus money and what's going to be available?
Right. We might have other ways to get money.
So that's we got things to discuss with EFC. But they were
just the shock value of us dropping out of EFC financing should wake them up a little bit.
Well, it's just very, very tough to know how to strategize. But
I just wanted to call this up for reference, because you're right, Chris. I mean, our final years after the construction of Big C is done, we're still probably carrying a little bit, but the cost estimates for those remaining years after the construction of these projects, this is not assuming any grants, and we really didn't have the costs dialed in quite correctly for some of these costs as far as the administrative costs, but we're looking really only at about $9 million of costs. So, it'd be interesting to see and consider that. But that's that's the burden you have when you communicate your rates to your municipalities. So,
but we'll have to be thinking about that pretty soon.
Mhm.
How we do the next tranche. And Albany, we had these projects, Columbia Street and Lead Street, Polk Street, in our 01. So as we get better numbers, we need to amend the 01. We had a grant on Maryline that has to be a modification to 01, but we had dollar numbers in for Columbia Street that were low, and we'll have to see what happens with Lead Street and Polk Street to see if we need to amend our 01 financing. I don't know how what you're doing with those, Chris, but if you're just using the numbers that we've been using previously.
no, we provided updates in real time based upon whether projects got grants. Paul imported the grant information into the system. So for any project that received grants, I sent in the master grant contract if it was executed, or an award letter if the contract hadn't been executed. There are a couple of those. And so we were able to, in real time, estimate the cost exhibits based upon the obligations of the community, the obligations of the state, and then any money that had come in on the federal side for a particular project. So they have all the grant information balanced against the project costs. So the cost exhibits are still conservative, but they're dialed way back from the conservative estimates and no grant assistance. That was the financial number used when communities executed their bond agreements.
Yeah, but you factored in the $3.8 million for Columbia Phase 2?
Not for the particular project, but I would be willing to bet, and this is worth looking back through, that the each community's bond authorization, and this would go to how granular those bond authorizations were, would be able to allow the flexibility to fund that project, even though it was a couple more dollars than estimated, because at the time of the bonds were passed, the bonds didn't account for all the grant money that we've received to date for the projects. So,
but if you figured that into looking at 01 for Troy,
I have to look at it to see if it has the flexibility there.
okay, just something to keep in
Mm-hmm.
mind. Okay, do we have any other business?
We'll mention, I did, we did see the letter that was distributed to the pool communities in response to a communication that we got from a Union College professor about our rain gauge data. And the joint venture team did prepare a summary letter back to that person, and that was sent to each of the communities before I distributed it to that individual. And it merely explains that there's a variation between rain data in each of the communities and at the Albany airport, and to create the tables that they use in the post-construction compliance monitoring report. They take an aggregate of the rain data. So they were able to provide that explanation. I haven't heard anything back from them, just other than, oh, great, thanks, it's good to have this information. So straightforward.
Okay. I guess the other thing that we've heard from Bonnie Starr about has been mercury minimization and our speedies permit. But that so I guess Albany's new speedies permit reads a little different than others. According to Bonnie, we don't actually have to send in anything. We just have to have it on file. Actually there's stuff that we've been sending in with our annual BMP report that we're now being told we don't need to send it anymore. Just send in the checklist. So mercury minimization, don't forget.
That was a monster I thought died in the first movie.
If there's no other business, gotta have a motion to adjourn.
I'll motion.
Yeah, I'll make the motion.
Gary and Chris, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thanks, everybody.
If we see you at 1:30, we'll see you at 1:30. So,
Hey, Martin, can you stay on for a second
yeah, absolutely.
See you
and
later.
stop the live streaming recording?
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah, Tom, we can talk about, there was some insurance thing about payments or whatever. So,
You want me to just stay on?
thanks, everybody. I'm going to hit stop.
Sure.